Happy Tuesday. Yesterday I went live with Dr. Natasha Gasson Paris, and today I am about to go live with Sheng Herr, and she's also part of this Rooted Revolution Summit that is going to happen in next week. It's going to start on Wednesday, March 4th through Friday, March 6th. And so let me bring Sheng on to talk more about her experiences with creating and co-hosting the Rooted Revolution Summit. Hi, Sheng.
Hi, how
How
are
are
you?
you? I'm good. How are you today?
I feel like today has been kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like we're like in the middle of reno and trying to get some things done. So it's just been kind of crazy trying to get some things done.
Yeah, totally. I hear you.
One second.
Um,
Hold on one second. This is
okay.
not okay. This is we're gonna hold on. So there might be some background noises. Trying to get, you know. So anyway, let's just roll. Can't get it with work.
Okay.
Anyway, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm so happy that you're here with me today on Instagram Live. And first, let's do a little introduction. Tell everyone like what you do and who you work with.
So, I'm Sheng, and I'm a business strategist and a wealth coach. I help women, and my mission is really to help women to really create their own wealth. And I use entrepreneurship, building online business through Instagram to really help them do that. So that's what I do in a very quick nutshell.
Amazing. I love it. I love it so much because we're both about, really creating more wealth and money for people, for our clients. And so let's talk about the Rooted Revolution, since that's coming up, and that's how we even met, was through this process. We didn't even know each other before
No.
the Rooted Revolution Summit. How did you come about to be part of it, and why did you want to be part of this amazing summit?
So I think it all started like kind of behind closed doors where I've always felt like, okay, there's always this conversation about, the online space or even in businesses of like this community of like the Black community and the white community. And I always felt like, where are the Asians in this conversations, And I feel like we're always being left out. And I feel like we bring a different approach to just business in general. Our views, our culture, our upbringing, the way we just run business is a little bit different. So I've always felt like left out in the conversation, and I believe that there's enough space for everyone, right? But I always felt like it's in the DMs and the private conversations, and then this like talking to another Asian woman and like in the entrepreneur world, and they could relate to you, right? They're like, I know what you're saying.
Mhm.
And I think when this opportunity came, McKay, who was one of the other speaker in this event, was like, hey, there's a group of us, we're gathering together. I want to create this, the space for Asian women entrepreneurs and non-binary, of Asian descent to really come together and have this conversation of like, where do we stand? How do we feel? Like shining more light on us, just so we can have this conversation and more and not in the shadows, right? So we can start having this conversation in front and like putting putting it out there, just having this conversation. So that's why I came onto the Rooted Revolution Summit and to be on board was because I really want to create a difference. I just want to, make space to have this conversation.
Hmm. And besides the fact that we haven't seen a lot of summits or other things where we see ourselves being reflected. Is there another more personal reason that you wanted to also be part of this summit, and why you believe that, you know, people can get a lot out of being part of this summit?
The one thing was I wanted to create more representation because I feel like we as an Asian community, we're pooled. It's like with this monolith, like, right? Like we're just this one thing. And I feel like that we come from different aspects and we bring so much to the table. So for me, I feel like it just create a huge array of representation, you know, Asian in general. I feel like there's this huge spectrum that people don't know. And I think like just creating more representation for me. And number two is really creating the pathway for others behind us, whether generations behind us or people in the same generation as, creating this path so they see that it's possible, you know, whether they see in us, they see another speaker, they see in you, they see in McKay, in Deepshika, whoever it is, but it's just giving them that hope of like, hey, if they can do it, I can do it too.
That's so powerful. And so how has this process been for you throughout these last 6 months? I can't even believe that it's been six
Oh
months
my
since
gosh, I
we
know.
had our first conversation about the summit. And I was just talking to Dr. Natasha yesterday about this. And, you know, we're also really surprised and shocked that there wasn't really one true leader that was telling somebody what to do. You know, instead, the six of us really came together and started to utilize our own strengths and stepped up into different roles. And that was like, I think, like pleasantly surprising to me and to, you know, to Dr. Natasha, and I think even May Kay, we were talking about it on her podcast. How has this process been for you?
I think I'm like in the same. I think I'm in the same page as you guys. Like you know, the ladies, and I think it's more of like this is a mission that we are all on. It wasn't like one of us was leading it and then it wasn't like it was my mission and I'm just asking you guys to come and be speakers. It was actually a mission for all of us. So just coming together collaboratively to work together and saying, hey, I can do this, and hey, I can do that. My VA can do this, my husband can do this, you know, like it's just pulling people together. And I think that's the gift of our community, right? I think that's a gift and that's a strength of our culture. I think in general, it's just like we're able to say, hey, you got this. I know someone, someone, someone. Let's just, I don't know. I just feel like that's how we roll and that's how we do things, you know? And it was just like magical when we all came together and we just like collaboratively, like, it wasn't like pulling teeth. It was like what needs to be done and let's just get it done.
Absolutely. And yet, I mean, throughout these last 6 months, I've noticed that all of us have had some personal things come up and, you know, some challenges and setbacks. And we were also so able to kind of give each other grace and support and compassion for those moments as well, instead of being like, well, we've got the summit coming up, so let's hurry up, you know, like let's not worry about all that other stuff. Instead, let's just concentrate on the summit. But instead, we've given each other time and space to be able to even process through emotions and other personal things have come up. Have you experienced that as well? Did you feel like you know, what challenges did you also come up against, you know, during this time that we've been creating this summit?
I think for me, I think it's just like what you said, you know, allowing that space and I think just allowing that space and that grace and saying like, yes, summit is the same thing. Like we all have an end goal, right? Is to get the summit up and going. But I think things happen, right? Within those 6 months, life happens. And I think it's often that grace. Like for me, during that time, in the beginning stages of us coming together and doing this, my grandmother passed away, you know, and it was something like I couldn't, the summit wasn't like I didn't care about the summit, but it was like I need to put that in the back. I need to take care of this. And just to know that the entire team just gave me grace and just give me that space so I could heal, so I could always continually show up as myself and even like a better version or even stronger, and not not put myself in a situation of like, I don't want to be here. And
Mhm.
just like that energy shift, right? Just giving me that space. That was really, really helpful for me, like in ways, you know. I mean, I know a lot of us experience setbacks. I mean, I think you also, you know, we all experience something. So I think having that place of grace and having the compassion and being able to have people who truly empathize with you, I think that was really like, I was grateful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. I also lost my grandmother around the time when we were starting to create the summit, and yeah, like it's been very supportive and helpful, and never felt like there was pressure, you know, to get things done. Instead, it just felt like we were all in this together, and where we could step up, we did, and where we may feel like we're, you know, those are not our strengths, then we were very open and candid about that as well, and allowing that to be okay too in this whole process, you know. So that was very powerful for me to witness and be part of, and to experience throughout these 6 months, is that, you know, it's okay to not know,
Mm-hmm.
have to know everything and to do everything. And then it's also okay um, for us to also understand our own strengths, and then be able to step up into it. Because sometimes that's been, you know, I don't know, sometimes it's been challenging for me as well to say, like, yes, I know how to do this, and it is a strength of mine, and yet there's like part of me that kind of holds back on it because of whatever reason, you know, like society, you know, things that I grew up with, you know, not feeling really, most of the time, not feeling like I truly belonged in a space. And so then I don't feel like I can step up and say, yeah, I know how to do this.
But I think the whole, I mean, Katie, I gotta give you a lot of credit too. You know, I mean, the whole entire time, I felt like as we were like falling apart, but kind of coming back and putting the pieces together and falling apart, trying to pull all the pieces together. I mean, the whole time it was like, to me, I felt like, okay, Katie's pushing through. So it gave me hope. Like, okay, she's pushing through. I'm gonna push through too. So even though the world was crashing, I feel like when you just like gave that energy of like hope, hey, you guys, I'm still here, we're still moving forward, it didn't feel like, oh shit, things are just gonna fall, you know.
Mm,
So I think
mm,
that was like, honestly, like that was the energy I've always gotten from you, like
mm,
working with you and this
mm,
whole entire journey. It's
mm,
like that's how I felt like each part of us was like, it's like exactly what you say. But when we, I mean, there were times when we were like, oh yeah, I mean, I know that, you know, but we were afraid to
mm,
step into that, you know.
mm, mm,
But because none of us wanted to like feel as if someone was like leading it, you know, because together we all came together for a bigger
mm.
mission.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you saying that. Yeah. I, I, I tend to be a half glass full person in general.
Well, they say, you know, was it Mark Cuban? I think I just read one quote that Mark Cuban wrote. He's like, whether your glass is half full or half empty, as long as you're the one pouring, just keep pouring the water.
Oh, I like that.
That's what
Yeah,
he
that's
said. I
really
think I
good.
saw a quote that just came across this morning, and I was like, yeah, you know, I guess that's it. Like, I am the one pouring the water, so I guess I get to decide how much more water I want to pour.
Yeah, that's really good. Um, and I like sharing some of these kind of behind the scenes things, and then to let people know that it's not a, you know, it's not, it doesn't need to look perfect, right? Like we don't have to show up perfectly, and in order to do things, you know, to actually put ourselves out there in the world, you know. And I think that's also part of what this summit is all about too, is that like, something that I keep saying over and over again is that I don't want it to be, and I don't believe it's going to be like where we think we know all the answers and we're teaching you how to do certain things. Instead, what I'm really hoping to get out of this summit and for all the participants is that we can all learn together, and we can all collaborate together, and we can all feel seen and heard, and have that compassion, all of that together, you know? So what do you believe that, you know, in terms of when somebody's joining the summit next week, what do you hope that participants will get out of it?
I mean, for my hope, I feel like at the end of the day, I think us collectively coming together. Yes, we are starting the root of revolution, but this is not just us. This is like we are all inviting more women to join the revolution with us. So know that, like, even though we are starting this, we don't want it to start and end with us. We're just the beginning of it, you know. And there's more to come. You know, there's more people to come. We're inviting people to stand with us, together with us. You know, and the other things, like exactly what you said, like we're not experts. Like, yes, we're experts because maybe we might have done it a little bit longer, but at the end of the day, we're teaching, but also we're learning. You know,
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, we're teaching, but we're always learning, and we're always learning something new. And I feel like we all come from different life experiences. We all come from different backgrounds. We all approach things very differently, and just come to the summit and know it and come with an open mind and know that I might tackle it this way, Katie, you might tackle it this way, but at the end of the day, it's like, what did Sheng do, what did Katie do, what did Dr. Natasha do, what are some of the things that these women did that helped them pivot or made these changes or created this transformation? Because you and I know we did not learn from one woman, right? We have learned from several different women to be the woman that we
Yes.
are today. Like, we didn't wake up
Yes.
and pick up one book and follow the book from A to Z and was like, okay, we've transformed. Like, you're going to pick up pieces for each one of us, how we speak, how we act, how we show up, our personality. You're going to experience all that, and you're going to say, wow, I love Katie because of this. I love Shane because of this. But just be open to that we're not all the same, and we might not be able to provide the answers for you, but know that
Mm-hmm.
we're showing up to create the space. But at the same time, we are learning, and at the same time, learn from everybody, because at the end of the day, you could take pieces of us and create your own woman, like become your own person. We're just opening the door so we can start having this conversation. Like I said earlier, we're no longer having these conversations in the DMs and in silence. We're bringing these conversations to the forefront because this is something we have to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
That's
I
really
just like went
powerful.
on a tangent.
No,
Like,
that's really powerful. I love it. And Dr. Natasha's with us. So hi, Dr. Natasha. And when it comes to this piece of like, you know, kind of feeling like we have to speak up. I mean, for me, this was, you know, last year when the women in Georgia were killed at the Atlanta spa, you
yeah.
know, it forced me to actually use my voice and actually start speaking up about issues that were, you know, not things that I mean, of course I have experienced racism in my life being an Asian American woman. However, it wasn't to that level of, you know, violence that was happening, and yet it compelled me to really speak up for those women, for people who actually don't have a voice. um, and I think that this is also part of the conversation that we want to have, and I want to have in this during this summit. What are your thoughts about, you know, what happened in the last year, and it's still happening? You know, the, you know, violence is against Asians, especially against Asian women, in this country, have continued, and it's, you know, it's really, it's just such a horrific thing that's been happening, and it's continuing to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think I completely agree with you. I think for me, the whole JoJo event was like the igniter for me. I think for me, it's like things are happening, and then culturally, you know, and I know, and everyone that's part of this summit know that as a culture itself, we're taught to be silent, right? We're taught to
Mm-hmm.
just shut our mouth, continue and do what we need to do. It doesn't matter if someone like hurt us. It means even someone like, I would say, even if someone stab you, you just stay silent. You just continue moving on, right? You just can go and go. And I think as a culture, yes, I think it to a certain point, like I'm not gonna lie, that whole mindset did serve me to a certain point, but we are here, we are today, and yet we are still have that mindset to stay quiet and not to say much, you know? And I think that you and I and other people know that that mindset doesn't work anymore. We need to speak up and stand up and use our voices, you know? Because I think like these women, like they kill, like these women that were killed and even other women in other culture, they have voices, but the things that they don't actually don't know how to use those voices, and they don't know where to begin. They don't want to be yelled at, crucified, embarrassed, or anything. And we stand in this space, and I really just want us to use our voice and to know that we mattered and that we have soul and that, you know, that we do. And I think as a society, we're looked upon as, I mean, this is might just be me, my opinion, but data has shown like we are right next to our white counterparts, you know, degrees, success, everything, the whole nine yard. And sometimes I feel like as a whole we're forgotten, you know, and like we can take care of ourselves, we can handle ourselves, and us coming together collaboratively, like you, me, Dr. Natasha, Deepshika, Anna, and everybody, just coming together and saying our voices mattered and we're standing for something. And we're creating this revolution, and we're creating this change because we no longer want to have the mindset. We want to use our voices and that we do matter. And I think at the end of the day, I think that's the whole thing. Like, yes, we're using the summit as a vehicle, right? But at the end of the day, our mission is to come out and saying our voices do matter and that we are different and that we do that. Like, even though we are holding the space, even though we look like we're successful and everything, there are in between things that people don't see. And we want to create this representation, but I think it takes more than just us. And that's why when I say that it's just, yeah, it's starting with us, but it doesn't end with us. We're just the kickoff. And I hope that other women Asian women and non-binary, you know, of Asian descent that shows up to really show and know that we're not doing it just for us. We're doing it for all of us, and to join us and collaborate with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that, you know, sometimes those statistics are somewhat misleading, and then also it can hurt us, you know, like the idea, well, the misleading part is that, you know, some Asian communities are of like actually some of the poorest communities in the United States, you know, and they're living well below the poverty line. And so when we hear about, you know, the success of like the Asians, it's like that really hurts like those communities, because then there are no resources going to them, because people are saying, well, if you're so successful, do you really need, you know, to have any resources and help and support? And then the other part about you know, that model minority thing that really hurts is that there's no room to be yourself. You know, there's no room to say, yeah, you know, for me, like I've identified myself sort of as a rebel. And so in a way it's like, is there room for that? You know, when people look at me and see my face as an Asian face, it's like, well, you should be a good student. You should, you know math, and you should, you know, be successful in their terms. Right. And to me, that's important to have that distinction. And then also it hurts other races, right? To say, I mean, I've seen this so many times where they'll hold up one end of things and say, look at this Asian person, you know, why can't you, whoever you are in another culture, be more like this Asian person, right? And that to me is just so, it's not equitable. It's really unfair, it's unjust, it's, you know, it's ridiculous, and it's just pitting each other against, you know, we're pitting our races against each other. And you know, and to me that is something that it's like, let's stop that, you know, let's stop that, because what really is important is for us all to actually come together and be compassionate of each other's journeys and experiences, right? In order to actually make real changes in this world, because if we're pitting each other, all these races against each other, all we're doing is create more animosity and more hate and uncomfortableness and other things that keep perpetuating itself into a cycle.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. Even with the data that's out there, when you were talking about the whole spectrum of like, there are certain Asian groups that are poor, and that are suffering, that are living below the poverty line, and it's not being considered in the data. I mean, if you really look at the data, when I was looking at the data of wealth, of income, and how they're saying Asians have all this money, but really the top three that kind of became the representation of the whole entire community was like Japanese, Chinese, and Indian. It was like, it became this they they have the wealthiest, they have more fortune, they have the highest degree, and they just became this huge representation of like this whole spectrum of Asian. And I know myself, I'm Hmong, and I know my community is not, yes, we are educated, but I know that our level of education, our level of income is not as high as others. And I think those are the things where the pockets are missing, right? And the other thing that you said of like, we are coming together, and we are collaboratively coming together and doing the work and creating the space, and that like you and we're not the same people, even though society looks at it like you and we look the same. And that's the most frustrating thing to me in the world. It's because I don't go out there and I'm like, oh, like I'll give you an example. Like I don't know Irish, right? Irish from like, different population. They'll be like, oh, you didn't know she was Irish because she has like red hair. And I'm like, no, I don't know that. But it's like, what is expected of us to know? And then it's like you and we are categorized as one person.
Oh yeah. I mean,
And
I don't know if you ever watched King of the Hill, but it's one of my favorite animated series, mainly because it's set in Texas and I grew up in Texas. And they had this moment where the lead character, Hank Hill, like goes and meets his neighbors and they're Asian. And then he asks them, what are you, Chinese or Japanese? And then they said, we're from Laos. And then he goes, is that Chinese or Japanese? So it's like there's no distinction most of the time, right? And like when I saw that episode of King of the Hill, I just busted out laughing because it's so true. It's so true that like nobody recognizes that there are other Asian groups, besides that, and for you to even tell people you're Hmong, like, do people recognize that? Do people even
no, I mean, people
understand?
don't. But the funny thing is, like, people come up to me and people's like, so are you Asian? I'm like, last time I checked, I was. So what do you mean by that? And they're like, well, I mean, I'm just saying, are you Asian? I was like, you mean like what ethnicity I am? Like, am I like Chinese, Japanese? Are you asking me that? Because if you're just asking me, am I Asian? Yes, I'm Asian. But it's like, it's I don't know if it's to blame society. I don't know if it's to blame educational. I don't know. I mean, even with I can go deep into this, but I'm just saying that, I just feel like we're so categorized and pulled. And at the end of the day, I feel like all of us have our own identity. And that even though you may see us and look at us like we're the same, but we're not. At the end of the day, it's the same thing in any community, the Black community, the white community, the Hispanic community. We all have different parts of us that are very, very different,
Yeah.
and but we have to acknowledge that we don't know. And like what you said, even during the whole summit process, when you said we all admitted there's some things we didn't know, there's some things that we were expert in, and there's some things we're not great at that we had to outsource. And I think that as a society, we just need to say we don't know. Like, I really don't know. Like, but do your homework, do your due diligence prior to even asking them, because you get tired. You get tired of educating people the same thing over and over. And then I feel like we live in this society where I feel like it's, it's a white society. I have to learn their culture. I have to understand their culture, and then we don't have the reverse effect where they are learning our culture. They are understanding our culture because all of us are different. We're all Asians, yes, but we're different kinds of Asians in betweens. We have different things.
Mhm.
We eat differently. We do things differently. Culturally, we practice different. But at the end of the day, the mindset, I think across the board, certain mindsets, I think across the board, Asian culture, we do have the same mindset. You have to hustle. You do things for yourself. There are things, but it's the in between things that are very different.
And those are some of the things that we're actually going to even talk about. I mean, I know that, Dr. Natasha is going to talk a lot about, how sometimes some of those mindset things that we do have in common, some like the hustle culture, the hyper independence. We talked about this yesterday. That could actually even hurt us. That's something that may not be the most, uh, may not be like the best way to do things nowadays, right? Like
Oh yeah.
instead, so
I totally agree with you. Yeah,
yeah.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So, that will be a conversation that we're going to have. So what are you going to focus on during your session, which is going to be on Thursday, right? Thursday, May 5th.
So I'm really focusing on, I'm really getting raw and real, really talking about the representation of, Asian women in the online entrepreneur space and how a lot of us, and just talk about like the difference of us in income and business. I really wanted just to talk about that data in a perspective, and I want to talk about how can we insert ourselves and our personality in our culture into our brand and our business, but using in the online social media space, right? Because I feel like that's what makes us unique. That's what makes us so different is our culture, our upbringing, just everything, our mindset, how we serve our customers, how we take care of our customers, our clients, and everything. I think having all those behind us makes us show up in a very different way. And I feel like I just truly want us to embody that part of us. And how do we
Mm.
bring ourselves that to the table? And then on top of that, how do we use that and show up in social media and build a business that it's really true to you, that's still about your culture? Because you and I and the whole team has talked about, like, sometimes we feel like we have to camouflage parts of us to fit in.
Mm.
And we don't
Mhm.
want to do that anymore. We don't want to camouflage ourselves anymore. We want to really show our true, authentic self and be ourselves. And I
Mhm.
really feel like in order to do that, there are things that we just need to talk about. And I want
Mhm.
to bring that to the forefront, but also demonstrate some things that I've done to really bring myself, my authentic self, to the forefront in social media, and really how to build a social media brand that's authentic to you.
That's amazing. That's beautiful because sometimes on social media, I think we all relate to this, right? No matter what ethnicity you are, that you may need to put on this face, or a mask and camouflage who you truly are in order to stand out and to have the social media following and all of those things. And instead, I do want to learn even more ways to just be myself, and that can be okay as well. That not just okay, but that can actually be a thriving part of your business, because we know that social media is here to stay. this
Oh
this
yeah,
is
it's not going away.
it's not going away for sure. And if you have an online business, that this can be a really powerful tool, but you don't want to get lost in it, because if you kind of get lost in it and start to create those camouflages or not be true to who you are, then it could actually bite you in the end, or it could create burnouts, right? Because you're constantly trying to do something that's not really you, and that's very exhausting, I would say.
No, I mean,
So
I totally agree with you where you say like it's totally exhausting, because I think at the end of the day, it's like you and we only could pretend to be so much, right? And that takes a lot of energy, right? I mean, whoever's listening to us and live with us, like, we all know that it takes a lot of energy to pretend to be somebody. or to be
Mm-hmm.
something. And because we
Mm-hmm.
already know the shifts inside, and you've been in business long enough, and I've been, it's like we don't feel in alignment. And when we don't
Mm-hmm.
feel in alignment, we don't show up, and somehow it affects everything, our business, our mission, our purpose, who we connect with, and who we attract as clients. And it affects us in so many ways. So
Yeah.
and everyone faces exactly what you said. It's just not the Asian community. I think in general, when you show your face on social media, you're so afraid to be judged. Like you feel like you do have something in your teeth. Do you talk too much? Do you talk too loud? Do you talk too fast? I know I talk too fast, and I used to never honor that because I used to like try to talk so slow, and I was like, oh my god, I feel like I'm talking like a turtle. I'm like going such a slow pace, but in reality, it's just like you have to own who you are, and some people's gonna like you, and some people's not gonna like you, but it's okay, you know.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Well, anything else you would like to say before we wrap things up for today? Besides join us on the Rooted Revolution.
I think I would say join us at Rooted Revolution. If you don't are not Asian descent of women at all, and you feel really connected to our mission and connected to all, I know we are calling out Asian women and non-binary of Asian descent. I know we're calling out, but if you truly just feel connected to the mission, like show up. Come, we're welcome, and we're opening up that space for you. Come, we're out here about supporting one another. So come, and if you know someone who feels like, you could totally benefit this, come, show up. And this is all about us supporting one another. This is not about us fighting space. This is just about us creating the space so we can have the conversation. But I'm inviting you to come and join us and have lots of fun. I'm hoping that at the end of our panel, we have champagne because it was been a long. So come and enjoy and have fun.
Yes.
Have deep
Yes.
conversation.
Yeah.
Bring your biggest worry. I always say, I'm a stranger. Katie's a stranger. But I hope that we create the safe space, and that all the women that do show up and everyone that does show up, I really, really, truly, truly hope that you can come and bring your biggest worry and bring your, like, anything. So let us help you. Let us help you on the journey. Let's help you, like, stop worrying about that problem or that struggle, whatever, and let us help you. And if I can help you, I know, like, one of the girls can, and even not, I'm pretty sure someone in the community can. I mean, we've all been through a lot, so I know that was like a lot, but I'm welcoming you to come and join us and hang out with us. And this is about having honest, deep, authentic conversations to really empower one another to really shine.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So go and follow Sheng on her Instagram. And both of us, I'm sure, have links in our bios to join us in the Rooted Revolution. It starts next Wednesday. Sheng's, I'm going to be speaking on Wednesday, the 4th, and then Sheng is speaking on Thursday, the 5th. And Dr. Natasha, who I talked to yesterday, is speaking on the 4th. We've got 3 other people. I'm going to speak to Anna on Thursday on IG too, and she's going to be speaking also on the 5th. And so, yeah, like it's going to be amazing. And we're all going to come together for a kind of final panel discussion on Friday, the 6th, and where we, like Sheng said, hopefully we'll get some champagne out and celebrate. And
Yes, come and join us. Come and join us and hang out with us.
Yes, it'll be really great. And I know we'll learn from each other just as much as we're learning from each of the speakers, so really, really, something special. And we're excited to have all of you come and join us.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, have a
Thank
good
you,
rest
everyone,
of
who
your
joined us
Tuesday.
live. Okay, bye.
Bye.